Hello everybody. I chose the Three Mile Island nuclear accident that took place in Pennsylvania in 1979 because there are 62 operational nuclear power plants in the U.S. with 100 reactors in 31 states. Quite a few of these were built in the 70s, a couple even in the 60s. Here in Florida we have two nuclear power plants. Turkey Point's reactors are pressurized water reactors built in the 70s, like the ones at Three Mile Island, and their operating licenses will keep them running until 2032 and 2033. Port St. Lucie's reactors were also built in the 70s and are also pressurized water reactors with operating licenses to 2036 and 2043. And of course we get Crystal River, which has been shut down. The U.S. General Accountability Office reported more than 150 incidents between 2001 and 2006 of nuclear power plants not performing within acceptable safety guidelines. And there have been 56 quote-unquote accidents at nuclear reactors, which are defined as loss of human life or more than $50,000 in property damage. Okay, stage one of the disaster states that you are the director of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, or NRC, and are responsible for overseeing safety and security at nuclear power plants. At one power plant that is located closely to 25,000 residents, the main feed water pump that is critical for cooling the reactor has failed. What is your plan of action? An emergency response team should be deployed to assess the situation and to bring the pump back online. Additionally, the evacuation of residents who could potentially be impacted by a radioactive leak in case of a meltdown should be mandated. What is your communication plan? The director must inform federal, state, and local officials of the problem and must keep them apprised of any changes. The public needs to be informed about the situation and possible dangers to nearby residents. What resources should be allocated? A team of engineers needs to be assembled to repair the pump or devise an alternative plan for cooling the reactor. Stage 2, the disaster states that as a result of the main water pump failure, the steam generators have been unable to extract the heat from the reactor. This leads to the turbine and reactor shutting down completely. The pilot-operated pressure relief valve used to reduce pressure in the reactor is stuck open and the reactor has begun to overheat. What is your plan of action? The director needs to ensure that an alternative method of cooling the reactor is found. Since a meltdown is possible, protective gear and radiation detection badges need to be issued to plant workers immediately. Nearby hospitals should be notified of the possible meltdown and asked to obtain supplies to treat radiation poisoning. What is your communication plan? The director needs to stay in close contact with local, state, and federal officials to keep them posted as the incident develops. Then stage 3 of the disaster states that 2 out of 5 valves for the backup feed water pumps were closed due to human error. The backup feed water valves have now been opened and the reactor is receiving emergency coolant. Due to a faulty system water indicator, operators at the plant have shut down emergency core cooling pumps. Radioactive coolant is leaking into the containment building. Temperatures are rising in the reactor due to low water levels, exposing the top of the reactor core. The reaction has damaged the zirconium nuclear fuel rod cladding, which caused an explosion in the containment building. What is your plan of action? The reactor needs to be flooded with water to cool down the core to safe levels. Air samples need to be taken to find out if radioactive material leaked out. What is your communication plan? Nearby communities that could be impacted by radioactivity should be instructed to evacuate as the containment building has potentially been compromised. Local, state, and federal officials must be notified as radiation could affect a large region of the country. Stage 4 of the disaster states that the plant is contaminated with high levels of radiation. At 7 a.m., you declare the plant an emergency area. Most of the reactor's core has melted, and you therefore upgrade to most serious category of general emergency only 30 minutes later. To release the steam and hydrogen from the reactor, a recombiner is used along with venting radioactive noble gases straight into the atmosphere, meaning the outside. What is your plan of action? The director should mostly be concerned with the reactor being cooled off enough to prevent more damage. Additionally, you need to ensure that radioactive material has not escaped from the plant. Which is kind of funny to say that, being that they vented radioactive noble gases, so they already know it has escaped the plant. But how will you contend with the public? The director should be upfront about the meltdown and proactive about measuring radioactivity around the plant and surrounding communities to calm the calm the public's fears. Key issues in this case study are: technology has such inherent hazards requires redundant systems relying on a variety of methods in case one system fails. Additionally, a team of experts should always be available for consultation to help reduce any problems that may occur. The failures at 3 Mile Island were caused by both faulty equipment and human error. Items of note: the 3 Mile Island cleanup cost $973 million and 1 million tons, which that must be incorrect, of radioactive fuel had to be removed. It is the worst commercial reactor accident in U.S. history. Critique: I thought that the action plan in stage 1 was very proactive, mandating evacuation of residents. However, waiting to issue protective gear and radiation detection badges until stage 2, when the reactor has begun to overheat, is negligent. I also thought it would have been good to provide for public announcements instructing residents who didn't evacuate to shelter in place in stage 3. Additional information I found indicates that the whole chain of events started at around 4 a.m. When feed water pumps, condensate booster pumps, and condensate pumps tripped when water from an attempt to fix a blockage elsewhere found its way into an instrument airline. This initial tripping of the pumps caused an avalanche of further equipment failures and human error. It wasn't until after shift change at 6 a.m. that the excessive coolant venting was discovered and backup valve shut. About 10 minutes after radiation alarms activated, the plant supervisor declared a site emergency, which was about 6:45. This goes to show how quickly things can spin out of control. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission faced several problems with this incident. One was the difficulty with obtaining information, and the other a lack of clear command structure and authority to tell a utility what to do or to order an evacuation of the local area. Some other information I found was that apparently operators were insufficiently trained for malfunctions with the system. There was only one phone line in the control room, which was continuously busy, making it impossible for NRC engineers to contact operators to receive information, provide assistance. And additionally, the engineers who developed the plant and designed it also were unable to make contact with the control room for 5 hours. Another problem that occurred was that there were over 2,000 instruments, but not a single one to indicate the water level inside of the reactor. But even if there had been, the reading would likely have been false because of the gas building up from steam between the rods within the core. The information released to the public about the incident was at best delayed, at worst misleading. It was theorized that evacuation of everybody in the area in case of a meltdown would have been impossible. If that scenario seems to be impossible, I would ask you to consider Turkey Point in your homestead in Miami. Anyhow, I did include also some links to some more information and material, including a couple of videos. They're in the form of documentary that I thought you might find interesting and enlightening. Also, another article that's actually more like a blog talking about Turkey Point.